Today I'm joined again by Shane Sullivan, LJ Hooker Drummoyne and Rising Star winner of 2016. Shane, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Josh.
So today we're going to talk about buyer work and I want to get straight into it. Shane, talk to me about from the very first point of contact you have with a buyer, whether that's at an open home, they give you a ring inquiring about a property, or they send an email online. Talk to me about how you work with that buyer and essentially what you do.
So from the moment that we meet them at an open house, for example, we send a follow-up text message after our open house just to thank them for their time and for their attendance. I'll then follow up with a qualified callback on the Monday, then go through whether they have any interest in buying the actual home. If they don't, I'll probably obviously lead them to other properties that I have within our list and then other properties that other agents may have.
Yep.
I like to follow up with a 10-day callback. So after 10 days, check in to see how they're faring in the market, whether they've purchased something. Obviously, if they have interest in my particular listing, then they'll be having frequent conversations with me throughout those weeks leading into them purchasing.
And when you first speak to a buyer, like what kind of questions do you ask them to find out a little bit more about, their situation, their needs, in terms of why they're looking to buy?
So I do try and get down to the bottom of the motivation and why they are making the move. But obviously, the basic questions like which suburbs are you looking in, what kind of property are you looking for, price guide. But one question I do like to ask is what's important to them and what are the must-haves they need to have in a property to really narrow down what they are looking for specifically.
Yeah, something that I work with agents on is when they speak to a buyer, let's obviously find out a little bit more about their buying needs and how we can help them actually secure their next home, but qualify them in terms of their situation because a lot of buyers will have to sell something.
Absolutely.
So once I coach agents to identify their needs and wants in terms of their buying criteria, I then shift the focus to where do they live now? Are they selling? Are they going to be leasing it out? Are they a first home buyer? So I know that that's something that you do in terms of you ask questions like, what suburb do you live in? How long have you owned that property for? And what's your situation? Do you need to sell?
And even if it's a question just like, are you hoping to hold on to that in this investment? Because most buyers would love to have the opportunity to hold on to what they currently have. Now, whether they can or not, that's a different story. But you want to start off, you don't want to just start off by saying, hey, do you need to sell your property? Because you want to start to warm them up and not to go straight into that. So I probably like to lean more towards, are you hoping to hold on to that as investment first?
Yeah, sure. And talk to me about how you prioritise and I guess categorise your buyers because you come in contact with so many on a weekly, monthly basis. How do you prioritise and I guess sift out who's hot and who's not?
So we're obviously asking great quality questions. We then like to put every single person that we come in contact with within a category within our database. So whether if they've come through multiple inspections, they've requested a couple of contracts, they have, we know for a fact they've been bidding on either our properties or other properties. That for me sounds like a buyer that is very close to purchasing a property, and I would refer them to our buyer hit list. So we know that within the next 30 to 90 days, they'll be making a transaction. Yep. We want to make sure that we look after them and pay close attention to them to make sure that we know and pinpoint exactly when they buy a property.
Yeah, and I think like some really good qualifying questions for a buyer is, firstly, are you in a position where that if you found the right home, are you in a position to move on it straight away?
Correct.
If they say yes, then that's awesome. If they say no, well then let's find out why they can't.
And let's work out a path to get them to the point where they can say, yes, I'm ready to buy, whether it is speaking to the bank, getting a home appraisal. A good way to do it is finding out if you had an idea of what your property was worth, would that make it easier for you to work out what you can spend on the purchase? Which is a great question to ask.
Yeah, and obviously it's, a lot of people say, what, yeah, maybe, and then it gives the opportunity to actually get through their home.
That's right.
Some other great qualifying questions are, have you missed out on any properties, made offers, bid at auctions? If the answer is yes to one of those, then they're in a hot category, they're ready to purchase today. If they say, yeah, we've missed out on other homes and I want to know the next thing is, great, which one? And what did you go up to on that one? And
that's a great point. So you want to know exactly where they went up to, whether they were the underbidder or they were knocked out early, because you want to try and get an idea of where their price level's at.
Sure. And what it actually does is, let's say, for example, that I'm selling a 2-bedroom unit and I'm looking for $800,000, for example. If I can identify that particular buyer has just missed out on an identical unit around the corner a couple of weeks ago for $850, and they come to me and offer, say, $780 on mine, I can actually use the information I've got against them and say, come on guys, look, you've made an offer, you've bid up to $850 on an identical one around the corner, you're going to have to do better than $780. So I think that if you can actually identify what they've gone up to on which properties, then you can be able, you're going to have the capability to negotiate better prices.
Absolutely.
So Shane, when you speak to a buyer and they tell you that they've actually bought something, what do you do after that?
So we find out their address of where they bought, and obviously congratulate them on their purchase. We then try to see if we can get in there to either offer an appraisal for sale or for rent. And if they don't need any help with that, we just put them through our database and service them over the years to come.
Perfect. There you have it. There's Shane's tips on fantastic buyer work. I hope you've taken a couple of little things out of today, and I'll see you again this time next month.